Welcome to this week's lecture for Child, Family, and Community. We are going to kind of have an introduction to schooling and educational systems. So if you remember our microsystem, part of our microsystem is schools and how they socialize us. So we're going to take a look at some non-parental childcare. So this would be childcare outside of your parents or your kind of extended family. So think daycare, preschools, elementary schools, after-school programs. That's all kind of considered non-parental childcare. We're going to look at curriculum as well, and we're going to look at diversity and inclusion. So how we kind of include children with special needs, and then including diverse children and families in our program. And I'll give you some ways that you can kind of have conversations with people around more difficult topics about maybe race, language, sex, and gender. So the funny thing is that we just don't spend a lot of time actually talking about education. For the amount of time that we actually spend in school, if you just started at first grade, that would be 12 years. Most people start in kindergarten, so that would be 13 years. We could also add on TK, or transitional kindergarten, which is also very popular now. And then if we add on our four-year university community college, we're looking up to 20 years in school, and that is a major socialization process, and that's why it's part of our microsystem. So in addition to our family, our schools and our teachers are one of our biggest socializing agents in our lives. We also have curriculum, and that is what teachers use in order to kind of teach us. So when I'm talking about curriculum, I'm kind of talking about lesson plans and the process of teaching people. So we teach you actual cognitive skills, like how to write a paper or how to think about children, how to write, how to read. We also teach you how to think critically, how to solve problems, how to work with other people. So that's all part of our curriculum as well. Many people are also going to argue that our schools also have a lot of social responsibility as well. So teaching children how to work with others, how to be in a group projects, how to talk to others, maybe even life skills, how to interview, how not to go in debt, those types of things as well. Maybe even sex education as well. So it's a big part of learning and socializing within our society, and that's why it's part of our microsystem. So non-parental childcare, once again, it's just care or taking care of children that's provided not by the parents for at least part of the day. So my 3-year-old is in non-parental childcare in that she goes to preschool twice a week. And then my twins also have non-parental childcare in that they do an after-school program twice a week as well. The importance of childcare. So this is high quality childcare, and that is why it is so difficult for us to kind of think about what this actually means. Is what is high quality? So if this was a regular class, what I would have you do is take a minute and write down what is important for taking care of children. So for taking care of children and we're not the parents, what would be the most important things that we might do? So it can be staff ratios, children ratios. So that's really important. You don't want 50 first graders and one teacher. That would probably be a bit overwhelming. You wouldn't have a lot of individual attention. Also, some parts of quality is the education of the teacher, that they have been educated on how children learn, what curriculum is, how to start curriculum. If they're in older grades, they know something about chemistry or biology as well. So there are a lot of characteristics of quality childcare, and it's really important that children that are not with their parents have this high quality childcare. One of the other things is that it's very expensive as well. So if you've ever paid for or seen early childhood education, it is very expensive, especially for infants and toddlers. They need more one-on-one support, and so it can be very, very expensive. Reasons that we should elevate non-parental childcare, and I mean, so take the idea of preschools, daycares, after-school programs, and treat them like they are a public school or a public school teacher, is that these are very important services that we offer. So it's enrichment, so getting children the developmental subjects that they need in order to be successful in school. So at preschool, you typically learn how to wash your hands, how to use the restroom, how to stand in line, how to play with your friends, all of things that kindergarten teachers really, really want. So you're getting your developmental needs met. Typically with preschool or in child care centers, your parents are now able to go work. And that's important for our economy and to keep things running, is to have parents that can be employed and can make a wage and take care of their families. In order to do that, you need childcare typically, and it needs to be high quality. If it's not high quality, if it's just kind of a jail for kids, then the child is being sacrificed for the economy, and that is not okay as well. Because we really, in an ideal situation, we want the parent to be able to go to work, to earn a wage for their families, and the child also to have intervention, to have enrichment, to have their developmental needs met, to be learning things and not just, parked in front of a TV or a screen, or ignored, or not having good lessons for them. So good childcare also can provide social services. We can help parents and we can educate parents on what it means to be parents, to be better parents, and also to get services as needed, and also readiness so that they're ready to go into formal schooling as well. So that's reasons that we want that high quality childcare. Teachers are, and this is an infant teacher, so if you work with really young babies, all the way up to me as your community college instructor, we are all agents of your socialization. So we are teaching you what is expected within your society. So I'm teaching you how to write papers. I'm teaching you how to write an email, a professional email to me. I'm teaching you all types of online technology skills as well, because you're having to learn on an online learning system on Canvas as well. So you're learning skills in addition to just learning about children, which is course content. I'm also socializing you and what it means to be a college student, and hopefully getting you skills so that you are ready to transfer to a university or to be better in your employment as a teacher as well. So we're doing that intentionally and unintentionally as well. So a lot of it is discipline, order, cooperation, conformity, and especially with childcare. Those are things that we are really expecting teachers as an agent of socialization to socialize within children. Conformity, cooperation, discipline, order. In this community college, I'm more kind of socializing you for critical thinking, for executive functioning, so you can think about deadlines, you can get things done. So we're expecting more adult skills, whereas teachers as agents of socialization with little ones are looking more for like discipline, order, being able to follow directions, which are important as well. We also make sure that we know that teachers as an agent of socialization have huge ethical considerations. It used to be up until I want to say like 2001, 2002, teachers in Texas could still hurt or paddle students. So I'm at work right now. I've got this stick, this measuring stick, and this would be an acceptable thing in Texas and other states in the early 2000s to hit children with at school. That is no longer okay. That is illegal. You will lose your job and go to jail. So that's changed in how we can kind of treat children. But it used to not be. It used to be something that was okay. And then we've kind of decided ethically it is not okay to hit or strike students when they do something wrong. Parents have a little bit more freedom with corporal punishment, but teachers should not. We need to make sure that we're not passing on misinformation or treating children badly. We actually have an ethical statement of commitment for people who work with young children, and it's from NIAC, which is just an acronym for the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And if you were writing a paper or you wanted to know more about ethics or children, this is a great source. It's a credible source that you could cite in reference papers or in any kind of work that you would do with children. So I'm passing on a great resource for you, National Association for the Education of Young Children, but they have an ethical kind of statement of commitment form. And this is kind of your code for ethical conduct, because we want to make sure, first of all, that we're not harming children physically or even emotionally and socially as well. We want to support their self-esteem and not hurt it. We want to make sure that we know a lot about child development and early childhood education, and we're not running programs where we're expecting a 1-year-old to act like a 7-year-old. You know, a 1-year-old is toddling around, doesn't have much words. A 7-year-old should have a lot of enrichment and fun things to do because they're in school. We need to respect families. because families are part of our microsystem. They are the child's first educator, their first agent of socialization. So you can't work with children without working with their families. We should respect each other who work in education. We respect teachers and the work that teachers do, ourselves as teachers, and then our coworkers as well. We should advocate in our community and our society for the best for children and families, and we're going to have a whole section on advocacy and socialization later on in the class. We're going to make sure that we maintain our high standards of professional conduct. So what does that mean working in the classroom with you guys in a community college? How should we act with you? It comes down to lots of different things like office hours, making sure we have office hours, that we respond to our emails, that we treat you with respect and are polite as well. We also should be open to new ideas and willing to learn from others, which is good for any, and I would consider that an ethical part of any kind of profession. Learn, grow, and contribute, also part of any other profession as well. We always want to be striving to learn more and do more and be more. So socialization is really, really good when the child who's outside of their parents' care has high quality childcare that we've just kind of talked about, that they have ethical teachers, that they have good curriculum, and we also have that economic support, because a lot of times high quality childcare can be very, very expensive. Infant care at a very good place can range between $200 and $400 a week. So that is a very, very high amount of money, and not everybody can afford to do it as well. When we have children in good schools getting good curriculum from ethical teachers, we see that their development, so their physical development, their social and emotional development, and their cognitive development, their kind of ability to think, all three of these areas are strengthened, and children have more potential when they have access to good schools and good education. So we've talked about teachers and how ethical teachers should be. We've talked about the teacher as a socializing agent. We've talked about kind of quality and how important quality is. What is our introduction to curriculum? Because we're going to talk again next week about education. So this is kind of an overview. What would curriculum be? When I think about curriculum, I think of being developmentally appropriate. So once again, not treating a 1-year-old like a 7-year-old. A 1-year-old and a 7-year-old are very, very different and should have different things in their classroom. Their teachers should teach them different ways. There should be less children in a 1-year-old classroom than a 7-year-old classroom, because 1-year-olds are still just learning how to walk, talk, and play together, whereas 7-year-olds can play better together. They have the ability to talk and think and reason. So what are some educational goals that we would have for that particular age? So a 1-year-old goal in a classroom could be to learn how to hold a pen, like not a pen, but like a really thick crayon, something like this. So not a pencil, but we would expect a 1-year-old to be able to scribble like this on paper, whereas we would expect a 7-year-old to be able to hold a pen with a more adult grasp and be able to write. So developmentally, they're very different, which means that our goals and objectives are going to be very different as well. 7-year-olds, we might be teaching them how to write a paragraph, whereas a first grader, we're going to be teaching them how to use a bathroom and use a potty. Both are very, very important for us and our growth and our development, but they are different goals and different objectives. So when we are writing, when we are teaching children, we want to teach them ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Those are important, but a lot of times the characteristics behind those are more important. So we want to teach children through play. We want to see them experience things. So if I was reading a book about snow and ice, well, here in Southern California, we don't have much snow and ice. That would be the opportunity for young children that kind of look like this to touch ice cubes, or to play with fake snow, or to go outside, or to try to kind of experience these things hands-on through play, through talking, through laughing, through experience, through being outside. Whereas a 7-year-old is going to have a bit more of a structured curriculum, but we do want children as much as possible to learn through play and through doing as well. We also want to teach children at this age about valuing differences, because children from really, really young ages know that we're different, that we look different, that our hair is different, our eye shape is different, our skin tone is different, the languages that we speak. So children from about 3 to 4 months old understand and see and recognize those differences. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, children are colorblind. They're actually, that's totally not true. Children are not in any way colorblind. They understand and they see those differences. It's just when they're taught that those differences are bad or good, that's when we come into the kind of problems with racism and prejudice as well. So in schools, a lot of schools teach anti-bias education or anti-racism, or just kind of these two goals, which is identity and diversity. And these are really important. We want all children to have self-awareness. Who are you? What do you look like? What are you good at? What are you working on? What are your weaknesses? We want you to have confidence in who you are. We want you to feel pride about your family and where you come from. We want you to have good social and group identities. So in your community, you have family and friends, you feel pride in them, and that you have a good identity with the community that you come from. We want every single person to have that, not just children. We want teachers to have that, but we want to encourage this in education typically as well. We also want children to express comfort and joy with human diversity. So they know from the earliest ages that people look different and act differently. And we want them to see that that is okay, and that is a joyful thing, that we all look different. Just like in a garden, there would be lots of different types of flowers and colors of flowers. That is the same with humans. We have lots of differences. We want them to have language for talking about that is more neutral, so it's not bad or good, that we can kind of talk about skin tone, that, you know, maybe I have a lighter skin tone, and I might have freckles on my face, and my co-teacher might have deeper skin, darker skin, and her skin is really beautiful and it catches light as well. So we have languages for talking about those differences, but we're not ascribing anything good or bad to them, that everybody is happy and joyful and accepted for those kind of differences as well. And then we want to have deep human connections, because typically when you meet somebody and you talk to somebody, even though they seem really different from you, we typically have and can create connections, because a lot of times our family units and the things that we might believe deep down about our attitudes and values might be the same. We might also want to teach children about justice and activism, but at the very, very least, we're really focusing on identity and diversity. We want children to feel that their classrooms are places where who they are and what their group identity is accepted and okay. Here is a short video on anti-bias education. right, I was getting some grading done. All right, so that was a little bit about anti-bias and working with families from kind of different or more diverse backgrounds. One of the hardest things with being a teacher and kind of working with diversity is people can have really different ideas about socialization. So what does family mean? Who's in a family? About what our roles mean, what our identity is, how we should act, how we should behave. All of that is part of our socialization from our agents of socialization that we have been learning. So a lot of it is subconscious sometimes, that cultural ideas sometimes are nonverbal or subconscious. We know about it, but it's hard maybe for us to talk about it. So we need to be able to manage and see these differences. So typically what we do is we try to negotiate with family. And one of the things that I like to do is this idea of acknowledge, ask, and then adapt. So the first thing is that you just kind of acknowledge that there is a difference in how you think about things. And this is great for everybody, not just in cultural situations, but you're most likely not going to agree with everybody all the time and everything. So listening carefully and understanding the other person's side of the story is really important, and that's typically the start. And then asking, so getting more information, learning more about their point of view, maybe even observation for young children or for any kind of children, observing and seeing things, paying attention to nonverbal and verbal responses. So if somebody's like this, maybe they're listening to you. If they're like this, you know, hands up, they might be a little bit more closed off, not as open to listening to you. This is where you're getting as much data about the misunderstanding or the difference. In order to be able to work with other people, you need to acknowledge that there is the difference. You need to be able to ask and get more information about the difference. And then we might try to resolve it. So find common ground, find a compromise, negotiate. So typically if we have an issue, so, you know, a lot of times the issues were that maybe a family does not want a little boy to play in the dramatic play area. So they don't want him, you know, in a classroom, a preschool, you go in and there's like a play kitchen, there's a play laundry machine, there's a little table, and typically the kids will go and play house. You're the mommy, I'm the daddy, there's a baby, they'll have strollers in there, they'll have dress up clothes, so they can be firefighters or Marines or moms or dads. I love what they typically do is they'll get a piece of paper, and they'll cut it out and they'll draw an iPhone, and they'll pretend to like talk on the phone. So they're just basically modeling what they see their families do at home. So a lot of times maybe people in their own specific culture will have ideas about gender, and that boys maybe don't cook in the classes, or maybe they don't set the table, and they would just prefer that the boys didn't play in the dramatic play area or the pretend area. So it's good to, you know, acknowledge that there is a problem and that that's something that they want, to ask more questions about it, maybe understand more about culture, about gender roles, about play, pretend, what do you think about fantasy and creativity and thinking that way, and then adapting. So what's some common ground or some negotiation, you know, because my kind of background as a teacher is children should really be able to go anywhere in their classroom. Their classroom is partly theirs. As a teacher, you know, I have a lot of control over it. It's I guess, my classroom, but the children are what brings it alive, and the classroom is for them. So children should be able to touch most things besides, you know, like the teacher's desk and, you know, maybe a bookshelf that's locked. Other than that, things in the classroom are for the children, and children should be able to play and choose the areas that they want to go to. So me saying what my background is as a teacher and the parents' background in their culture as well, you know, hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement or boundary or compromise about these. And sometimes we have to agree to disagree. And these types of situations always take a long time. It's not just one meeting and you'll be able to, you know, bridge all cultural and, you know, language and racial differences in one sitting. No, but you can have conversations with it over the long term in order to come to some kind of negotiation or compromise. As an introduction too, we also have to consider that not all children have the same ability. So some children have delays. Once again, our areas of domains are physical, so they might have a hard time walking or crawling or even eating. They might have a hard time cognitively, so they might have a hard time with their schoolwork, reading or writing. This could also be communication, talking or speaking or hearing. And then it could also be social and emotional. So a hard time sharing, get along with peers. Maybe children with on the autism spectrum might also have issues with that as well. So we're more diverse, but we also need to make sure that children with special needs or maybe delays in those areas of development also have support as well. And this is very, very common in California. About 15% of California children need some kind of special care. So they might have allergies, asthma. You know, I have asthma. I needed some support from the school nurse when I went to school. You know, I have ADHD and need to go to the nurse as well to get your Ritalin, or you might come out of the classroom in order to learn more about studying skills. You might have developmental delays in the physical, cognitive, or social and emotional as well. About 3% of California's children are going to have a more significant disability. So this might be that they're blind or low vision, that they're deaf, that they are in a wheelchair or use a walker, that they have issues with learning and cognitively they might be quite low. But about 12% of the students in California are in school and receive special education services. So this is leaving the classroom or having support in the classroom. So that's about 730,000 students each year that need a little bit more support and help in order to meet their potential and development as well. And then we also know that autism has also been rising as well in our centers and in our education system as well. A lot of times we'll feel nervous about working with people with disabilities or children with differing abilities or disabilities because they haven't been trained. They don't know what that specific development is. And we're so lucky in California, we have so many education resources for teachers. So I was really nervous the first time that I worked with a child who has a G-tube, and that is a hole in a tube in a child's intestines or stomach that allows them to eat from a bag of food. So this is a child who has maybe problems with their esophagus, they can't swallow, maybe they have a cleft palate. They will actually get their food through a tube into their stomach. And the first time I was really nervous to work with a child like that, but it was fantastic. My boss sent me on a training. I learned from a nurse. I learned all about G-tubes, what they look like, what the process of getting them in, how the doctors do them, and then some tips and tricks on working with children who have G-tubes. And I felt totally trained. You know, the first couple times working with that particular child, I was a little bit nervous, but then it just became second nature and that I knew it and I had the education. And I no longer was afraid, because a lot of this comes from being afraid of not doing the right thing, of the child getting hurt, of the not knowing the words to say, the parents being upset, not having the right environment. And it's okay that we feel afraid, but it shouldn't limit us. We still want to work with people with disabilities and differing abilities because we can provide all of these. We have the means to change environments, to, you know, push the tables farther apart so a wheelchair can get in, or to change the font so somebody with dyslexia has a better time seeing the words and being able to read them as well. And as long as we're doing our honest effort, I've mostly found that parents are really helpful and wanting to work with us so that their children can go to school. I thought I would give you some examples, though, of what this can kind of look like, because this is kind of your overview of the important part of the microsystem, which is education and teachers. So early childhood education, these are some of the ways for young children that we can support them in, like, preschools if they have a special need. So a 4-year-old could have speech therapy at a public school, and then once a week, so they go to preschool 5 days a week, but once a week, mom or dad on their lunch break picks them up and takes them to a public school in order to get speech therapy, or they might go on the bus as well. A baby, so an infant, maybe 3 or 4 months, who has Down syndrome, and that is typically you can tell when somebody has Down syndrome. They have beautiful almond-shaped eyes. This kind of area is a little bit flatter, but they might need physical therapy to help them walk. So a physical therapist would help them walk and crawl. An occupational therapist is somebody who helps you with your hands and your fine motor part of your physical, so being able to pick up things like markers. And they might also get care at an early childhood education program. So with infant and toddler daycare, they might do that for 30 hours while mom and dad work. They're also going to get therapy as well at home, typically for infants and toddlers. A 3-year-old with maybe global developmental delay, so this would be that they're delayed in physical, they're delayed in cognitive, and they're delayed in social and emotional. So a child with disabilities just generally could be in a family childcare, so a at-home daycare, and get therapies at that, or as they transition, they could also get it at a school district as well. And then maybe a 5-year-old who's in kindergarten or transitional kindergarten here in California has spina bifida, and that's like a hole in your spine. They might receive physical therapy and occupational therapy once again, maybe even some speech services at the school district. And then they might go to an after-school program on the bus from the school district where their kind of medical and developmental needs, because of that spinal cord injury, they'll need people at the after-school program who have been trained to take care of them as well. So this is an example of how outside of school in early childhood education we can support families as well. One of the best ways that we can bridge the gap, so in teaching and teachers as our microsystem and agents of socialization, we are helping children learn and we're teaching them curriculum. So one of the best ways to do that is kind of universal design for learning. And I am going to play a video that just kind of talks about what curriculum and designing curriculum and lesson plans might look like. right. So that is examples of what classrooms might look like, what our curriculum might look like, and that is kind of best practices for all children, not just for children with disabilities, but all children kind of need in-tune caregivers with lots of materials and lots of instructional support in order to understand the curriculum, the goals and objectives that we have. So teachers, non-parental childcare, schools are just a huge socializing force. Teachers are your agent of socialization, and then the systems of childcare and schools also socialize you as well. So we really want to make sure that our microsystem supports children and socializes them appropriately. And some of our schools are also going to have information for us about our macro kind of level values, attitudes, beliefs, culture. That's also going to be transmitted to us in school. All right, that is this lecture for this week. This was kind of your introduction to education. We're going to go more in detail next week. I will see you guys online.